Oh man, so excited to talk about this movie. I've been waiting all year. I've been waiting all year. God. It's like Christmas.
Daddy's gonna try.
I'm on heart medication, so if I die because I'm having grapefruit,
wow,
no.
You give a sip.
I'll be just fine.
Okay, yeah.
Stand by. Going to air.
Stand by, Phil.
5,
Stand by music.
4,
Stand by announce.
3, 2, 1.
And fade up.
Fish are friends, not food.
Make it Centauri time.
Too much iron in your blood.
Buddy the Elf, what's your favorite color? Hey, what happened? Let's fly!
Let's get pissed and watch boom.
Hello, you've got a base.
Are you saying there's something wrong with my gear?
We're going streaking!
He found me!
He's doing this Superman thing.
I still only counts as one!
Why is the rum always gone?
Okay, well, welcome to a brand new episode of 20 Years, 4 Beers. We are a podcast dedicated to re-watching movies from at least 2 decades ago, while simultaneously enjoying a minimum of 4 modern beers. My name is Steve, and this is my big brother,
Tim.
And we are coming to you from Minneapolis, Minnesota. On this episode, we are going to be rewatching a Best Picture nominated film that many people have seemingly forgotten. And we are here to fix that, damn it. Somehow, we are going to be covering our second film involving old British Royal Navy ships this year. You would like...
That's true.
Okay, a little weird after Pirates of the Caribbean. And we will be rewatching 2003's Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World, which will henceforth be referred to as Master and Commander, except for maybe 1 or 2 other times, because I am not repeating that entire title all night.
No.
Before we jump in, though, we typically discuss some more modern choices that we have watched recently, either TV or film. I have a couple this time around I'm going to just mention and recommend or not, but do you want to go first?
Yeah, so I had to make notes. I'm like, what are we talking about? Yes. So, because I had a couple as well. And I'm like, I know I'll be like middle. Like,
Oh, on the way here, there was a third one that I was going to mention. I could not remember. I was like, oh!
So I'll do just TV stuff because, all the
TV stuff.
Focus is...
Does movie stuff know that you're cheating on it?
It's okay.
But stuff.
It consents. I got caught up on because we haven't gotten to season 2 of Loki yet. But I wanted to see the Secret Invasion because it's a completist, if you will.
Sure.
Hard pass on everything about it. If you are any way interested, skip it. It's completely a waste of time.
Yep.
It's the rare time where I was like, wow, this was 6 hours I'll never get back. It's not very good, and
no.
It's completely useless for the overall story.
It's just so disappointing.
Yes.
Just in a, what they did, with even Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yep.
Whether you like it or not, it was a little more, it was way more gritty and really more sort of
yes.
It's kind of what they did. You haven't watched it yet, but what they did with Andor and Star Wars, they could have really made this fun, secret agenty underground whatever, and I haven't even finished it because I was so bored. What's the point? I just looked up online what happened.
It's so dumb.
Yep.
The ending is terrible, and it's hard to have any tension when everything is like a shape-shifting creature.
That's the problem.
So it's like, oh, here's rug pulled out again. Oh, and this, it's like, it was so, by then I'm like, just get done. I'm so annoyed. On the other end of the spectrum, we finished After Party season 2.
Oh yeah, you were talking about this. Yeah.
Which, if you're a fan of movies, the first season was great. Second, just as good. Thoroughly enjoyable.
Nice.
Really, really enjoy it. It's on Apple TV. Highly, highly recommend. It's from the guys that do the Lego movies, the Spider-Man, Miller and Lord do the shows. And so it's so good. Every episode is like a genre of film told through some character's perspective. So it's fantastic. Nice. And then after listening or completing our previous podcast, the Happy Hour on the Matrix movies, finally got around to seeing Matrix Resurrections. Mm-hmm. And I got to say, definitely watch it. It's after the blah of the third one where it's the total downer.
Yeah.
It was nice to come back into it, and I wouldn't say redeemed it, but it's definitely it's a cool enough story.
They resurrected it.
They did indeed. To say, what would happen if it was X amount of years after and Neo's still alive? What would they be doing? And so it was very cool. I enjoyed it. I was pleasantly surprised. I had super low expectations.
Nice.
But it was nice to have the experience overall and on a much more worthy note than what we talked about in the previous episode.
Yep.
So what'd you watch?
So I did finish Loki season 2. Oh. I'm not going to obviously talk about too much of it, but it is outstanding. It is good. It ends in such a way that's really good too.
Nice. That's what I want.
Yeah.
Like, keep me engaged. Anyway,
yeah.
Yes.
Oh man. Yep. I'm going to talk about 2 really random movies. This is so great.
Buckle up.
Yeah. Well, number 1, I'm going to talk about the good first. And you and I have talked about this because I texted you. I rewatched Silverado from 1985, which to me, so Lawrence Kasdan actually wrote and directed it. And so if you like,
I didn't know he directed it. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
He's got other, movies and stuff like that. But yeah, he that's, for those of you who don't know, he's the writer of Empire Strikes Back and I think Raiders, didn't he?
He did Raiders.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, I love it. I think it's like a perfect Western for me, like, because I watched it because of Open Range. We recently watched Open Range, and I was thinking about Westerns, and I was like, okay, I'm going to rewatch it. And it just happened to show up on Netflix when I was thinking about it. And because I own it on DVD, but I don't have it on digital.
The algorithm is that.
Yeah. I was like, I thought about it. And so there it was. It is so good, man. It is like, and I think why, because Lawrence Kasdan is hit or miss in terms of some of his movies. And from a writing standpoint, like, he does such a good job of building little bits of story along the way. There's references early in the movie that you don't really find out about until 3/4 of the way through. And it's not like a mystery, but it keeps you engaged along the way.
Okay.
The action, again, in a Western, there's very little of it until you get to the climax. Like, that's kind of standard in a lot of them. Sure. But the story is good. The acting is good. The cast is amazing. It's like the perfect 80s cast.
Nice.
And you get, would we talk about Kevin Kline and Danny Glover and Scott Conn and Rosanna Arquette and Brian Dennehy, and you're just like, man. Yeah, it's just so cool. So you got to watch it. Again, it's not perfect. It's not a perfect movie, but I think it's like a perfect Western.
Nice.
So good.
Never seen it.
But it's also like super 80s. Like, it's like super cool. And the other movie I watched, and I don't know why, and this is super sad to admit, but I watched a really cheesy romantic comedy. Well, the comedy is not a comedy. It claims to be a comedy. It's not very funny. It's funny in the wrong way.
Okay.
Right. And so I on TikTok, I kept seeing these clips from a movie called About Fate, which is on Prime Video. And it's basically a Hallmark Christmas movie. So it stars Emma Roberts, and then it also stars, I can't remember his name. I didn't write it down. And it's all about like fated meetings and things like that. And it all takes place on New Year's Eve, but it's hilariously bad because there's just terrible editing. It's all Christmas themed stuff, but it's New Year's Eve. Okay. So they're riding around town and it's all season's greetings, and there's garland and there's Christmas lights, and there's even like a Christmas song on in the background, and it's New Year's Eve. You're like, it's New Year's Eve. Yeah. I was like, what is happening in this movie? You got to get drunk and watch it with your wife is what I'm saying. It is so bad. I love watching bad movies. Don't get me wrong, but I just randomly was like, I'll put it on. And I was like getting drunk on whiskey and just like enthralled at how bad the movie was.
I love when movies are that bad.
Yeah. I know. I was sitting there thinking like, I'm single. I'm 41. I'm drinking whiskey on my couch watching About Fate. I need to get out more.
Just perfect.
Yeah. Well, as mentioned on this episode, we are going to be re-watching Master and Commander. The film centers around 2 friends in the British Royal Navy during the Napoleonic Wars. One, the legendary Captain Jack Aubrey. The other, the ship's doctor and surgeon. Aubrey and his crew set sail on a journey that will take them around the Horn of South America in search of a formidable French vessel that has been terrorizing the British ships. The journey will test everyone's limits, including the captain's, and even have the men questioning whether they are heading into certain death. The film is directed by Peter Weir, second one in just a couple months for us. Written by Weir and John Colley, and stars Russell Crowe as Aubrey, Paul Bettany, Billy Boyd, James Darcy, and a lot of other men. but no women. So there we go.
True.
I think there's a couple at the beginning, but otherwise it's it's not quite Lawrence of Arabia, which has none, but yeah.
Do you see those two weevils, Doctor?
I do.
Which would you choose?
Neither. There's not a scrap of difference between them. They're the same species of Curculio.
If you had to choose, if you were forced to make a choice, if there was no other response,
If you're going to push me, I would choose the right-hand weevil. It has significant advantage in both length and breadth.
There, I have you. You're completely dished. Do you not know that in the service, one must always choose the lesser of two weevils?
He who would pun would pick a pocket.
Our first segment, as always, is Drinking Buddies,
Come on, not my fucking beer.
where we present the beers that we'll be drinking while rewatching our subject film. As our name would suggest, we cover 4 beers. Tim will be walking us through our buddies for tonight, so take it away, Tim.
Our first one tonight, which I cannot remember if we definitely have not had on the podcast, but I don't know if we've had it just a different time. Bad Habit out of St. Joseph, Minnesota. Their habitual IPA, one of our favorites, a grapefruit IPA. I was like, ooh, Daddy's going to try
I'm on
that.
heart medication, so if I die because I'm having grapefruit,
Wow.
No.
You give a sip.
I'll be just fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's been a good
Yeah,
run.
exactly. It's been a good
So yeah,
run.
we
3 years.
I saw that. I was like, ooh. Even though it's getting towards the fall
Nope.
and cold. Oh my God.
Have you had it before?
I have not.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That smells real good. I'll pour that for you in a second. And then we have, I wanted to sour, and it's always good to go back to our friends from Humble Forager
Yeah,
out of
they're-
Wisconsin. Their Coastal Sunshine Smoothie Sour Ale with mango, banana, and mandarin. I must admit, I don't know I've ever had I've had maybe one with banana.
Yeah.
I'm usually not a big fan, but we're going to try it out. I want something, and it's, coastal sunshine
Sure.
on the boats. No.
Yeah, sure.
The
We'll do that one.
next to our theme.
Yeah.
Portage Brewing out of northern Minnesota. Deepest of Seas.
Hey,
Right?
there
That's
you
the
go. That's a good
ocean.
one.
Super deep.
That's a good one.
New England IPA with Nelson Rowaka and Citra Cryo hops. And then, Steve, how does water and other liquids get transported across the ocean in the old days on these boats? It gets transported in barrels.
I was like,
yeah, that's right. We got you.
Yeah, like
Via the ship.
condensation and rain and
Yeah, they collect rain.
yeah.
No, we've got from Surly, their 13, which is their maple barrel aged imperial stout brewed with vanilla beans and lactose. So we're gonna try that at the end.
Cool.
Yeah, those are buddies.
Thank you. All right. That will bring us then to the social network,
If you guys were the inventors of Facebook, you'd have invented Facebook.
where we take a look back at the critical and fan reception from 20 years ago. Tim once again takes point on these. So, Tim, what did the critics say?
The IMDb rating is 7.5 out of 10. Colin Kennedy of Empire Magazine said the movie, it's oak solid and unsinkable. Master and Commander is old-fashioned entertainment crafted with considerable care. Lisa Schwartzbaum of Entertainment Weekly. Hey, there's a lady
Hey,
involved.
we found one.
Awesome.
We got one.
This apt and sensitive introduction to Arthur O'Brien's ripping maritime tales manages to make a period piece saga feel modern, capturing something timeless in the characters of all men. Roger Ebert, care to guess what he gave it?
4.
4 out of 4.
It's got to be 4 for this movie. It should be.
It is, yeah. The film is an exuberant sea adventure told with uncommon intelligence, reminding the audience of well-crafted classics before the soulless age of computerized action. It is grand and glorious and touching in its attention to its characters. Like the work of David Lean, director of Lawrence of Arabia,
Yeah, there you go.
it achieves the epic without losing sight of the human, and to see it is to be reminded of the way great action movies can rouse and exhilarate us, can affirm life instead of simply dramatizing its destruction. Academy Awards, I gotta say, I totally forgot that it was up for 10 nominations.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But not surprising with the categories involved, ultimately winning 2. So the 8 nominations were visual effects, sound mixing, makeup, costume design, art, set direction, film editing, director, Peter Weir, and best picture. And then the wins were sound editing and cinematography, which every other category they lost to was Lord of the Rings.
And the only reason they won was because Lord of the Rings wasn't up in those two.
I do remember
how
mentioning
cinematography wasn't up for Lord of the
that's
Rings.
just
But
a
whatever.
joke.
We'll talk about that in a few weeks.
Yep.
Or a couple months, whatever it is. All right. Well, there you go. We are going to pause and rewatch the movie. If you are so inclined, go right ahead and watch along with us. I would suggest this movie ahead of time. Just if you, again, we talked about this before, if you don't like us probably just waxing poetic about a movie, I'm guessing we will later. If you do like it, we'll try and find a way to entertain, or if you don't, we'll try and find a way to entertain you. But anyway, here now is Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World.
Even crippled, she will still be dangerous. Like a wounded beast. Captain Howard and the Marines will sweep their weather deck with swivel gun and musket fire from the tops. They'll try and even the odds for us before we board. They mean to take us as a prize. And we are worth more to them undamaged. Their greed will be their downfall. England is under threat of invasion. And though we be on the far side of the world, this ship is our home. This ship is England. So it's every hand to his rope or gun, quick's the word and sharp's the action. After all, surprise is on our side.
Well, welcome back to 20 Years, 4 Beers, where we have just finished rewatching Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World. I'll give it maybe one more.
Yeah, one more.
And also, I've enjoyed 4 new beers that we will review in a segment coming up. But first, as usual, we jump right into our reaction segment that we call Spotlight,
They knew, and they let it happen.
where we highlight and discuss our top takeaways of any kind from rewatching the film. Tim, this has been longer for you, as is often happens for us. So
It is.
I will let you take it away. What do you got?
First reaction. So it's been at least 15 years since I've seen this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly because it seemingly didn't do well at the box office. Because
I mean, it did make $212 million
Sure.
worldwide, but
Yes.
yeah, I imagine it costs a lot to make too.
They scrapped future stories.
Right. Oh,
this
man.
Because of the books. Apparently there's many.
There are.
So it kind of feels like stating the obvious.
Mm-hmm.
But they just don't make movies like this anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know.
At the risk of sounding old, right?
Right?
They just don't make them like they used to.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Here's a podcast talking about how it used to be.
Yeah.
It is so effing good.
Yep.
I know that I didn't quite. I mean, I liked it enough in the theater.
Right. Yep.
I was like, yeah, it's well made, kind of thing. And then I remember seeing it more and more and appreciating it because you know what's going to happen.
Sure.
But watching it, where I forgot most of what happens.
Oh, a couple
Truly.
of your reactions along the way, like when
Yeah.
Doc gets shot, you're like,
I was like,
what the fuck?
what the fuck? Like, oh my god! Totally forgot most of everything. It is so
Yep.
unbelievably good.
Yep.
We'll talk through some of these, but just right off the bat, like, holy shit! This is one of these kind of classic feeling
Mhm.
movies where I actually can't believe it got greenlit
Mhm.
in many ways. Where it was coming out, early 2000s must have been like, I mean, story wise, and they're getting like filmed and produced. The lack of CGI.
Yeah. I mean, and this is the thing, it actually still holds up the CGI they do use. The
Very
waves,
minimal.
yes. Like there is a good amount, all the exploding of the ship, like that.
Yes.
That's obviously all CGI, but they do a good job with it.
But it's not
But
like
they do real life. Like I don't even know what the term is. Like
I mean, like you think about, like, we'll watch it later this year, like the Lord of the Rings.
yeah,
It's a fantastic world that doesn't exist, so they have to have it be CGI. But this had to feel grounded,
yeah,
and realistic, and the scope of tactile
Mhm.
experiences. It's so good.
Yep.
It's so good. God damn it, it's good.
So I'm gonna start off.
Yep.
with a hot shot.
You're American. Yes, from America.
We're throwing
Right
it back.
off.
We're throwing it back.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to say it's better, but in my opinion, I would rather watch this movie again than the Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. I'm not suggesting it's better, quote unquote, because again, we've talked about Lord of the Rings, and we'll talk about in 2 months how it's kind of one story, one movie, one everything.
Yep.
On its own, that movie versus this movie.
Yep.
I would rather watch this movie over again right now than watch Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. And I think that's a bit blasphemy in film circles.
I mean, there's some element of yes. So let me unpack.
In fact, I would say, I think, in terms of enjoyment factor, this is a better movie.
Better.
I'm just saying. Ooh. And we're gonna rewatch it in 2 months at the end of the year. Come back. I mean, I'm saying Hot Shot. Because I've watched this movie more recently. It was about 2 years ago, or like in the last year and a half.
Yeah.
And I remember texting you, and I was like, dude, I cannot wait to talk about this movie.
You did. Yeah.
I was like, I cannot wait to talk about it. It is so good. It is, and we'll wax again. I knew this would happen.
Yeah.
I don't foresee any quibbles or arguments here. So I started out with like,
it's gonna be a love fest.
Here's a grenade, throw it in. But I sat there about halfway through being like, man, I would rather watch this movie again right now than Return of the King. And you're going to excuse it away. You know?
No. Actually, there you go. I literally thought about, as it was getting close to the end of it, my thought was, like, clearly Return of the King was going to win Best Picture.
Completely.
Because of the totality of experience.
Yep.
And well-deserved as it is. But I honestly thought, watching this, thinking, man, any other year, this would have won.
Or I thought, too, let's say Fellowship had won.
Sure.
Right. Like, or
over a beautiful freaking
because it was over Chicago, right? Or like Chicago won 2 years ago. And
well, no, Chicago last year. A Beautiful Mind was the year before.
Yeah. Right. Excuse me. Yep.
Yeah. Fellowship beats A Beautiful Mind.
Either of the previous two won Best Picture.
Yep.
I could argue this should have won Best Picture this particular year.
Yes.
And again, we'll come back to it in a little bit in a couple months. But I'm just saying, oh man, this movie is so good.
I honestly thought that when I was like watching it, feeling like
so good.
It is any other year. Like if it had been delayed a few months.
Yeah. Had it just moved to March or something like that. Because it's this or $1 Million Baby the next year. This.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love $1 Million Baby. Oh man.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to start.
That's a good hot
take. I'm just like, in film circles, that's a hot shot. I'm just saying, like, because a lot of people don't even either remember or know this movie exists.
Totally.
Now, 20 years on.
I mean, I was walking earlier today, the dog with Ellen, my wife, and she's like, "What are you guys going to watch tonight?" I'm like, "Explain what?" She goes, "I've never seen that. I don't know what that is."
Do you think she liked this movie?
I do, actually.
She doesn't listen to us, so you can say whatever you want.
I actually do. Like, I think
as long as yep.
I would have to have the subtitles on.
There is a lot that
you get totally missed. I'm like, I don't care. I'm here for the experience.
Yeah.
And like,
Australian director, a bunch of Brits.
They're pointing at stuff, and like a typhoon's happening. She'd be like, "What are they saying?"
Yeah. That's all right.
But I think if we put the subtitles on,
anybody would like this movie, though.
I agree.
If you like movies,
yes,
you would like this movie.
Yes, and it's okay. So
go ahead. All right, that was my first. Yeah, we're like 20 minutes in right now, but bring it on. What do you got, Tim?
I don't know if I like bring it on, but like, what was impressive watching it was I honestly can't think of a film, and not recency bias because we watched Pirates, Curse of Black Pearl, swashbuckling kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know if I can think of a film that shows truly the full scope of what it would take to truly keep a ship like these at the time operational.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, a difference in kind for this, where it's not just, I mean, I think we've seen some movies where it's like, oh, you're out in the seas and you're like having the ship, but so many men that have to be working pretty much continuously.
Yeah.
It seems like, to keep this operational. And then when you see pretty quickly into it, the destruction and the battle and the logistics of repairing, putting it back together to working order on the freaking open seas.
Yeah.
This isn't just, and they do at times like, hey, it's like, take it, into port and we'll get fixed
or
and come back.
Low shoal or whatever it is.
It's just like, you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
All you have are your resources. I just think we've talked about movies before where the attention to detail is incredible. This is a difference in kind.
Oh, yeah.
To me, that I was not prepared for watching this, where direction of Peter Weir and production, set design, all these things coming together. It is flat out incredible what they're able to accomplish in, again, the visceral feel of not just the violence of this, because it's bloody and there's like, but it just, you start to realize this is insane what these people did generations ago.
Yeah.
On the open sea. Like, how would you ever sign up for this?
Right.
But again, it's like
There's no other choice
it's wonderful,
a lot of times, but yeah.
I just think that, I don't know that I can think of a film that captures that granular feel of how difficult it would be to make it work on these ships. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible.
The attention to detail in this is unlike almost anything else I can think of.
Yeah.
It is... like between the two of us, one of us is guilty of recency bias or like pontificating or whatever it is.
I'm super hyperbolic.
Right.
Absolutely.
Hyperbolic thinking, not pontificating, but hyperbolic. Right. Yeah. And I'm not. But I'm just saying, boy, from the beginning, when you've got their name, like they've got the cannons are named.
Yeah.
Right. All the cannons are named.
Yes.
Right. Obviously the costumes. Filming in as much like live action or whatever it's called, like sort of the tactile on like as little CGI as possible. Filming on location. Side note, fun fact: this is the first film to ever film at the Galapagos Islands.
The first?
Yeah, non-documentary, but first.
Oh, sure.
Like, yeah, but
what?
First actual.
You think that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Anyway,
that's
side
incredible.
Note. Even the ropes. This is the one I wanted to get to. The ropes. I read about this when I actually did research. This is incredible to me. So I didn't know this, and neither of us are maritime people or yachters by any means.
Nope.
But modern ropes are right. Like when they wrap it around, they go from the right. Like they go from the right over right, and then they like wrap it around. Old ropes were left.
Huh.
So they had to redo or create brand new
new ropes.
They fashioned
old ropes,
hundreds of yards of rope. So and I was watching it. I was like, I don't know what modern rope looks like in terms of, but then when they're like breaking it open on that amazing scene of cutting the guy loose, like you're like, it's that left to right versus right to left or whatever. Like the attention to detail on that's
insane.
Is just like. I cannot think off the top of my head of another movie that has it's almost flawless. I can't think of like anything that would be wrong from beginning to end in this, and they tried to do as best they could from an accuracy standpoint, attention to detail standpoint. Yes, it's that was you mentioned.
I love
that. That's one of my points is attention to detail, but. I'll move on to the next one, but I just am saying I was amazed halfway through. I mentioned it to you. We're only halfway through this in the best possible way.
Yes.
The first half of this movie feels like a complete, like you feel like you could have ended it and be like, that was a good movie.
Yep.
There's so much information packed into this, which leads me to, I'm not even going to bleep this out. No fucking adapted screenplay nomination is insane.
It's insane.
It is insane to me. Like, full disclosure, I typed this out ahead of time. So I'm saying, like, I understand it would have lost for Lord of the Rings. I get it.
Yes.
I get it. But to take multiple stories from multiple books in a multi-volume series, because this is actually, this movie.
Like 10 or 12 books, right? Like,
I was debating on making this trivia. It's actually 20.
20 books?
It's a 20-book series.
Wow.
and they take 2 separate books in this series and combine them into this one movie.
Mm-hmm.
And like to do that and create a movie of this type, overall quality, etc., and not be recognized. And I look back, we did this with Whale Rider. So other nominees that year were Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, Seabiscuit, and City of God. Worthy inclusions here.
Yep.
At the time of Whale Rider, we thought Mystic River was a worthy inclusion. And now you've read that book, so I don't know how right. But are you going to tell me this adaptation is worse than Mystic River?
No.
Right. And then the other one is American Splendor. So, right.
Yeah.
Like to take all of that out there.
Yeah.
And bring it in. And we talked about, while we were watching this, the scar on the, I can't remember his name, James Darcy, the actor.
Yep.
But the scar on his face.
Tom or whatever. Yeah.
Right. That's referenced in other books. There's a lot of things that they take from even other books in this series, then they bring it in here. But then to just meld all this into this story, and it's intelligent. Yeah. They're having a conversation. I have no fucking clue what they're talking about.
No.
But I'm like, I agree. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just, oh man, it's smart. It's funny. It's like, yeah, the adaptation is exactly what you want. So no nominations is insane to me.
When you think about 10 total nominations for this, and
and that's not one, right? You recognize that this is 10 nominations worthy. Lord of the Rings: Return of the King had 11.
Yes,
this is one less.
Yes,
than Return of the King.
Yeah.
So you obviously think this is a great movie, and you're just like, it's not well written.
Yeah.
Which, whatever. But yeah.
So what makes this movie, to me, elevated is it's compelling, it's interesting. You can really feel it in the first half hour, 45 minutes of this isn't your typical kind of action fare.
Yeah.
And I think, oddly enough, having come out the same year as Pirates of the Caribbean,
right,
where you feel like, oh, it's a swashbuckling extravaganza, pirating fun on the open seas. It completely shifts for me.
Yeah.
And you mentioned before, in the scene where it's in the storm and they have to cut away the broken mast. And the realization that they're going to have to let a crew member die. And they're going to have to cut off the ropes and the reverse of it, but they're going to what's amazing about movies like this, and others do it as well, but it's just like a great idea of like, you don't have to say it.
Right. This isn't the first to do this.
No, but just the look of the captain to others of, I have to sacrifice one for the many and have to cut off.
And this dude's best friend is standing right there. The guy who, the guy who handed the ship to him.
Or whatever, yes.
Well, no, but I'm saying like,
yes,
because it's him and the guy
who had the model of the ship.
Yeah, that's who
figured
gets
out how he can beat.
He even understands this is bigger than we can't
we
do
will
this.
all
and
die
he starts,
unless he dies.
Yep.
And it's so well done.
Yep.
That
it's like it's speechless or whatever, and like there's just nobody else to say it. Yep.
And just seeing, and then you add in the classical music that comes in, you're like,
dude,
so good. So that I think elevates a movie like this, where it's interesting and well done. It's tense before, but then that shifts it, where it feels like the weight of these actions really have consequences for what's happening. And so I think that scene elevates this, and it feels like, okay, we're in a different kind of movie for that. So I'm glad I mentioned it, because I love that scene's incredible. Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, give me some Kleenex.
Yeah. Well, again, as parents or whatever, you do start to. I've become more emotional about this movie because they did have young kids in this.
Yeah,
You know,
it's like
these are like 14-year-old
boys
kids,
hanging out in
16-year-old
boats.
kids,
What the
right?
hell?
Because that's what they're what I mean, you're a man at that point, right? And that Blakely kid, I didn't write him down in terms of the kid who loses his arm.
Yes.
Like, holy cow.
That kid's good.
Oh my God. He just has that like level of empathy, and yeah, he's so good. But again, that's something that the layers in this movie, that it's so smart. Like, they bring in this accuracy level of it. Like, no nomination, BS. So for me, it was designed to be this way, and it failed because of the overall box office. And you mentioned Pirates. It's arguable that Pirates actually hurt this movie.
I agree.
That people were either done with that sort of like pirate movie, or thinking it would be something else and not as dramatic. But
or fun.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's like lighthearted.
Yeah,
It's
this is gonna be
enjoyable.
great.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, it's very different.
If ever there was a movie that needs a franchise, this is it. If ever there's a movie and they wanted to make more. There's 20 books.
Well,
they wanted to keep making more. What?
The end was like hinting at like,
right.
oh,
they wanted to make more. The studio absolutely wanted to do it. Universal. They were like, yep, we want to do more. But obviously, if it doesn't make money, they're not going to. But yeah, the studio balked, because we know now studios suck.
Yeah.
Studios are the worst. Did you see today that they like shelved another, like Warner Brothers shelved, there was like a Wile E. Coyote movie, like an animated Wile E. Coyote, like it's completely finished. It's done. It's ready to go. And they shelved it to take a $30 million tax break.
That was like Batgirl.
Batgirl did the same thing.
They're like, entire
These
movie's done.
MFers,
we will eat the cost.
They're going to eat the cost of it. They shelved it. It's gone. Done. All these people, they got paid. Don't get me wrong. They're not,
sure, but
they don't have, back end deals or anything like that. And that's where, like, I do think
it's just
absurd. 5 years on, 6 years on, as this movie kind of started getting forgotten, man, I wish they would have just kept making. I mean, it's way too long now. You can't do anything about it.
No.
But although Paul Bettany somehow looks younger than he did back then. Yeah, if ever there's a movie that just deserves to continue on, we're forced with like Space Jam 2 30 years on, and all these sequels and all these, and we like our MCU, don't get me wrong, but it's just, my God, could you imagine? It's so rare to find short of Lord of the Rings, which we consider one film, but really like the Godfather trilogy. Like, it's been so long since you've had a like intelligent, have to think about kind of movie. I guess Sicario versus Sicario, Day of the Dead or whatever. Yep. I don't love the second movie, but still, like, these are movies that like you have to think your way through. It's rare to get sequels to really well done movies like this, and I was God.
Well, we talk about
ever.
Oh, I think we talk about at some point like loving movies that respect an audience's intelligence, and the idea of we expect you to be adults.
Yeah,
and you can tell movies a mile away like what the demographic is that they're going for. Like it's not a freaking science when it comes to this thing. Like, okay, I know what I'm going into. I love movies that expect you to pay attention and just be like, this is a difference in kind.
Yeah, and don't look down on you if you don't get it. There's some that are like,
true,
you don't like it, you must not have gotten it.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But
this is just
they
like,
expect you to pay
we're
attention.
making a movie for a different type of experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's, I think, great. I agree. It'd be, maybe like a short-term miniseries or something. Could be
if ever there was beyond this book series would make a fantastic TV series.
Yep.
But the cost isn't. I'm sure it's so costly to film at sea, but my God, it would be so good.
Yeah.
And I have not read the books, short of like looking through them and kind of like. So I was working at Barnes at the time this came out. Anyone who's read the series has said that it's good, but it's also it's a lot. You know what I mean? It's like Game of Thrones, right?
Sure.
I would rather watch the show than ever read the books.
Yeah.
Like we're done.
It's probably like a Tom Clancy thing where
But that's what it is.
the
Like,
movies are way better than the books. Like, it's a
There's
bit
a
slow.
lot of information in these books. There's a lot. I mean, this is your books about being at sea.
Yeah.
Like snooze fest, dude. But they made 20 books, so obviously O'Brien knew what he was doing.
So speaking of snooze fest, I would say some of the critics I was looking at mentioned, and I honestly can think back to when I first saw it, the middle section of the movie where
Without the wind.
It's like them kind of like dead at sea.
Yep.
And it's probably 20 minutes, I think.
Yeah,
like,
it's
roughly.
really, it's of a 2 hour and 15 minute movie.
Yeah. It's
maybe 10% of the movie.
It's not that long, but it's enough that I remember the time feeling like it was slow.
Mm-hmm.
But now watching it again, that segment I think is essential for, as we talk about the attention to detail and the experience of being at sea and fleshing out some of this where it's not just, oh, we're going to take some time. It's actually talking about these characters feeling like, legend tells of these things and the biblical aspects and the feeling of it, of what would happen as people's like sense of sanity and comfort starts to fray.
Yeah.
Because the first like hour is just like, everything's going fine.
Right.
I mean,
within reason.
I mean, they got their ass handed to them, but like, it's exciting. It's interesting. What would it be like? And I think it's a really bold choice of Peter Weir to say, we're going to grind this to a halt.
Yeah.
And to have you feel like this is a mutiny waiting to happen. And I don't know the name of the character or the actor, but that, shipsman or whatever it is, like him starting to feel like I am the cause of our misery.
Yeah.
And it's really heartbreaking when he decides I'm going to throw myself off the ship with that freaking cannonball to potentially he's so far gone.
He's convinced himself. Yep.
And that I think is such a bold choice when you think about these kind of movies where it is very much like a excitement, adventure. It's like, no, we are going to take this and just stop it in its tracks. That I didn't appreciate when I first saw it. It definitely felt like oh my God, that was like 20 minutes of wasted. No. It is essential for building up to the ending sequence for me. Like you have to have, I think, that lull where it feels like, okay, now we experienced how bad it could be, where we think loss and destruction is bad. Oh, no. Like losing your mind and the crew and the elements of this could actually be far worse. And then now we can build back from that to then it's not just kind of a pivot. It's actually like this building tension that adds to the character connections, all the depth of this that I didn't appreciate. Absolutely did not appreciate 20 years ago.
Yeah. And now add to what happens if they go through all that and then Jack Russell Crowe is willing to sacrifice his best friend and the surgeon for this mission as well. Like you've sat through all this, you've done all this stuff, and now, so it weighs onto Jack too. Like all this stuff is
because after that, the tiniest glimpse of something interesting is happening. Oh, there's a bird here, whatever.
Yeah,
and then oh my God,
blammo
when he gets shot.
Yeah, you're like, holy F. Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. I totally forgot.
So like it's these layers upon layers upon layers that lead to, because why would he bail on his duty, his orders, right? Yes, for his best friend, but now he's also factoring in the crew has just gone through losing a very popular member with the mast, like the Marley kid.
Yeah.
And then they go through this entire thing with this like curse. And now you lose your only real honest to God doctor, who's also your captain's best friend. Like, does the crew survive this?
Yeah.
And does he? And so
Yeah.
it's that, like, I like it. You have to have that, because if they just go around the horn and maybe they go south to that really cold and they hop back north and then they're behind him again, it feels almost like it feels like it's ramping up too fast, almost like you have to stop there.
Yes.
It's so like, and clearly something's off with that guy.
Yeah.
The whole way through, they make it seem like, you know, he's singing at the beginning and he's like, he can't connect with the men. And if you don't deliver off of that, when you really look back on it, you're like, you didn't deliver on this storyline that you're talking about now. Like, it's actually brings it through.
Yeah.
I have actually one more point short of just gushing over this movie. You mentioned, well, I guess Ebert did, but you mentioned David Lean earlier in that Ebert review. And I kept thinking that this is exactly the type of movie that Lean or John Ford or other classic directors of the 30s, 40s, and 50s would have made if they had the technology at the time.
Yep.
A movie that takes its time, is authentic as possible, and wants to keep us enthralled. Like, and there were, like, Mutiny on the Bounty is a great movie. The Caine Mutiny is a good movie. Like, these other sort of, like, although that's more modern, but Mutiny on the Bounty, same thing. Like, they do their best, but they're so limited in technology.
Yes.
And so for those old directors to take that story and bring it into the modern and have the digital when you can, but really be able to go out to sea and do this. This is just that type of movie. And I did talk about Silverado earlier, like Lawrence Kasdan, that was his sort of like homage to these old John Ford Westerns and things like that. Same thing. Like, I feel like this is Peter Weir saying, like, this is what, and it feels so old school. It feels so like, again, you said it, like, they don't make them like this anymore kind of a movie. Oh, I love it.
What do you think about Peter Weir, where his probably two most famous movies are Dead Poets Society and Truman Show? Yeah. I mean, he's got Witness and other, like, very well done movies.
Gallipoli, this, like, he's got some great movies, but his two are for sure those. Yeah.
But this felt like a different, I remember going to see this thinking, oh, Peter Weir, I've seen this stuff before. This felt different to me.
Yeah.
It was like, holy shit, this dude is like next level direction, where it did feel very classic. Of the scope and the scale and the...
Again, it's the taking of the time.
Yes.
And this is why Westerns are so fascinating to me, too. They take their time to tell a story. Same with this.
So, not many other points, but...
No, go ahead.
You mentioned before. Paul Bettany is such an underappreciated actor. Yeah. And we've seen him in Knight's Tale and A Beautiful Mind.
Beautiful Mind so far. Yep.
So far in the podcast.
Which, again, side note, this is their only other movie, but boy, could we use... The two of them are so good together.
Great.
They're so good together.
Just like have like every couple years...
Like,
the two of them come out for whatever you need to.
Those two movies in the span of a couple years and then never again.
They're
so good together.
Great together.
But anyway, Bettany, yeah.
But he's so unappreciated. To the scene where he has to do surgery on himself.
Oh my God.
It's just, but you're seeing what's, we talked about before, like, it's not just him grappling with it and completing it, but it's seeing the people around him who are used to battle and destruction and gore having to, like, it's off-putting to them watching the doctor perform surgery on himself to be, it's just, and then how he balances that with his friendship and yet tension with his, scientist idea of like on the islands and seeing these things and be like, I have to leave these things behind. Anyway, it's just, he's so good.
But
he's so great in this.
That's when he does, when finally Blakely tells the big burly guy to pick him up, and he doesn't fight it. He's like, he knows in that moment, every time it happens, he knows, yes, I have to take a backseat to
the greater,
whatever. And Bettany, I agree. And we haven't even mentioned him yet. And it's like, I think this is how good Russell Crowe is just in general.
Yeah.
He's so good in this.
He's
and
pretty
yet, like, we haven't even, And I think in assuming we're doing this in 2 years, we'll talk about Cinderella Man. But like, Russell Crowe is, and we talked about him in Gladiator, I know, but like, he is so effortless that almost you forget how good he is.
Yes.
And Bettany's same way. Like, you're just like, oh my God, you were just so good.
He's unbelievable
Yeah.
in terms of this. Last thing I'll say is
What do you got?
I'm just a sucker for when a movie uses classical music
Yeah.
to such great effect.
The music choices are so good. The
It's
fact that
perfect.
they don't use a score
Yeah.
really almost at all. There's
Very
some,
little.
but yeah. And when it comes in, it's really well done. But sorry.
Yes, it just is such a genius choice to have classical music in terms of, early 1800 or 1806 or whatever. This would have been, and then they juxtapose it with, this stereotype in many ways of a captain of a ship and big burly men and like doing all these things. And then he's playing violin with the cellist. Like that, I think, is such a great difference in kind for especially post 80s, 90s, like rah, rah, beat your chest, men macho. This is a difference when it comes to leadership and that focus. Classical music. And then they play instruments and they appreciate it and love it. And I love the music choices in this that it's incredible.
Again, speaking of detail, the fact that Crow and Bettany both learned how to play their instruments,
It's so
not to
incredible.
actually play on like audio, but just to look like they were playing well enough.
Yes, they could pull it off.
To pull it off, and they do. Like it's not. There's no CGI there. It's not like with Green Book. Excuse me. Later on, where it's a different actor, and they put Mahershala's head on his like no, this is just them playing, and then somebody else just plays off to the side.
The music
or
on the side.
Boy, shocker. We liked this
It's so
movie.
good.
As we close out our spotlight segment, we come to our final takes called The Verdict.
I'm going up there. I'm going to try it. I'm going to let the jury decide.
Where this is where Tim and I give our final verdicts after watching the film and decide whether or not the movie held up over the course of 2 decades. You or me?
I'll go because you've seen this more often.
Yep.
This is a flat out masterpiece. Master and Commander is a movie they just don't make anymore. Giving the viewer complex perspectives on something extremely common at the time, but appears foreign to modern audiences. The film is patient and particularly focused on the tiny details that it would really take to make this work, and how it was that nations expanded across the world over the ocean. Impressive and just confident direction from Peter Weir, combining that with fantastic performances with Crow and Bettany as great friends, but also fighting at times of what their perspectives are. It's just incredible. Way, like, we talk about holding up. It is way better than I expected.
Yeah. From
20 years ago, 15 years ago when I last saw it. It is effing incredible. 4.5 out of 5.
4.5
for me.
Nice.
It's a movie now like, that's a standard bearer.
Yep. All right. Well, my verdict, there are a few examples that I can think of a film that honors the way films used to be made while also utilizing the best of modern technology more than Master and Commander.
Yep.
Utilizing masterful performances from Crow and Bettany, an adaptation of material that seems almost impossible when you really think about it, and a commitment to accuracy and real-world over graphics. What results is something that must be seen and experienced as soon as possible. It is an example of old school meets new. It is the type of movie that gets me excited about movies. And for me, it is a damn near perfect film. I have 5 out of 5. Not only does it hold up, it gets better with age. The graphics also still are not that bad after 20 years.
They're
but
great.
anyway, I get excited about this movie when I think and talk about it. It's 5 out of 5.
Nice.
All right. Well, with our reactions to the movie out of the way, we move on to our reactions to our beers that we drank while watching the movie. So that brings us then to our beer reaction segment that we affectionately call Drinking Buddies, the sequel.
Let's get weird.
Where we take a look back at our beers and give our expert ratings. Tim, bring us on back through our buddies.
We started the evening with Bad Habits, Habitual Grapefruit IPA. Happy to report that Steve did not have any type of heart issues
So far.
with his medicine.
It might be 1 to 3 days according to Google, but we'll see. Yeah.
We'll report back.
Yeah. Next podcast, if it's just Tim, you'll know.
Nug.
Right.
Oh, that's really good. It was a 3.5 out of 5 for me.
I know, regrettably, right?
It's like
3.5.
I was so stoked.
I know.
Oh my gosh, grapefruit IPA, yeah. And I don't know that I expect like an overwhelming amount of grapefruit, but I expect a bit more.
Yeah. It's not enough.
It was just meh.
Yep.
Okay. It was far too subtle for my taste.
Yep.
If you're gonna call it out, have it be prominent.
I agree. And here's my biggest thing. I have 3.5 out of 5 on this as well. My biggest thing is, I think we've talked about it in the past. I'd have to look at your Excel spreadsheet. If they're gonna do grapefruit would have been better with their Lonely Blonde.
Yeah,
it would have been like because habitual on its own doesn't quite bring enough. Like it is so well made, and I love the habitual. It's so good. It doesn't really. It's not conducive to bringing a flavor along with it, like an outside flavor. So like if they would have brought, and I love Lonely Blonde too, but it's a little bit lighter. It's much more conducive of bringing that sort of grapefruit flavor through.
Yep.
But no, it's Bad Habit. It's well made, but there was not near enough grapefruit, and I don't think you can with habitual.
For what I was hoping, like, yep. And then we had Humble Foragers, Coastal Sunshine, Smoothie Sour Ale with mango, banana, and mandarin. You know, they can't so far do anything wrong.
I have yet to have a bad sour from them.
It's just unreal. It's a 4 for me. Mm-hmm. I must admit, I'm not a big fan of banana in anything outside of like banana chocolate chip muffins. Those are the shit.
Sure. Or just choking down the banana just because.
They're the worst.
You know
it. Depends on the ripeness. I liked it. It was really tasty. Very interesting. Actually, I didn't mind the banana flavor. It was really good.
Well, for me, I have 4.25 out of 5. For me, the banana in this almost feels like the smoothie part of the smoothie sour.
That's true.
Like they brought it in to get that sort of smoothie flavor too. I have 4.25 out of 5. I initially had a 4 because I thought it would get less drinkable, but actually, as I kept going, I was like, no, I'm really liking this along the way. You know, side note, like I can't remember which one it was. Recently, we had a really bad beer night, and I think it
was the last time with Kill Bill, I think.
Yeah. But then like Truman Show and that kind of, or Open Range, we had a good. That whole night was good.
Yeah.
But this is a good night though.
It is a good night.
Yeah, Grapefruit Habitual is probably the worst, but I like Coastal Sunshine.
I agree. It got better each time for me.
Oh yeah.
And then the theme.
No, it did for me too. Actually, looking at my ratings.
Portage Brewing, their deepest of seas.
Yeah.
Which again.
Yeah,
you talk about the deep in this. Like, New England IPA with Nelson Rawaka and Citra Cryohops. It was a 4.25 for me. It was really tasty. I was very impressed with this. I liked it a lot.
The same with Coastal Sunshine. This got better as it went for me. I ended up with a 4.5, which for a hazy is really high for me.
Yeah.
It was really good. This is one of the better hazies I've had in quite a while.
Especially from Portage too.
Yes, it was. At first I liked it, and I was like, "Oh, this is a 4.25." And then I ended up while we're watching the movie, I'm kind of finishing up, and maybe it's just because I'm like jacked to the T's to watch this movie. But I'm like, no, I had a 4.5. Yeah,
it was really really good.
Yeah,
and then we ended on.
God damn it, Surly.
Hey, Surly only looks out for one guy. Surly.
You know, we've talked about them in many ways, like feeling like the industry's caught up, or they were a great trendsetter, but blah, 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 blah. And maybe it's just like, I feel like their arrogance kind of gets ahead of them.
Yeah.
And then every now and then, they release something that I'm like, God damn it.
Yep.
You deserve all the accolades you get.
Yep.
13 that they released their maple barrel aged imperial stout with vanilla beans and lactose. It was a 4.75 for me. We both had it, started sipping, we're like, holy shit.
I know. I was like, F you, sir. Every time. It's
so
like
good.
Yeah, it is like Godfather 3, right? Like just when I'm out, you pull me back in.
It's so good. It was incredible.
Yeah. What more do you need? I have 4.75 as well. No notes. It is. The only thing that would make this a 5 to me is if it were, maybe if they if they were to release a barrel age of another like year or two, like it were more, like just more aged.
Yep.
It just would have been a little more fuller flavor, but it's damn near perfect. It was so good.
Yeah, the vanilla and maple together, like
it wasn't too sweet. I thought vanilla and maple, you're like, yeah, it's gonna be a little
lactose, like
sweet.
No, it was very, very good.
F you, Surly. All right, our final segment of the episode is Quiz Show.
The exciting quiz program, 21.
Where in our research for the film, we find some interesting trivia nuggets that we hope will stump the other and possibly intrigue you, our dear listeners. How many do I have? I guess I have three.
I like two-ish.
I have three written, and I have one other in case we either like cross streams, and I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I guess I'll go first. Yeah. As we know, and have discussed, the 2004 Oscars covering these films in 2003 were completely dominated by The Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, which won 11 awards. As mentioned, this movie won 2 awards for sound editing and cinematography, which, by the way, cinematography was outstanding.
I agree.
Yeah, we didn't really, and since we're such great sound editors, it was also outstanding.
Although I did say at some point, God, I love surround sound.
I know, yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's really good. Yeah.
So anyway, probably, as you mentioned, because Return of the King wasn't nominated in those categories. Aside from Return of the King and Master and Commander, only one other film took home multiple Oscars from this year. Can you name the other film that took home 2 awards?
2 awards in that year?
Otherwise, everyone else won 1.
Has been movies. I think we've watched it.
We have.
I
will give you I can give you a clue. You'll know it when I say it.
Which one?
There's 2 acting awards.
Oh yeah, Mr. River. Yeah, we covered. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Man, that year
dominated, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it just dominated. The fact that only 2 other movies won more than 1.
Yeah,
like come on. All right.
That's true. We covered that. Can you guess how many feet are in a fathom?
No, but I guess I'm gonna say 1,500.
Ooh, 6.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
I don't know.
Right?
Wow.
I was like watching, but like it's X fathoms. Like I've never known.
You know what? Here's what pisses me off. I actually would have gotten that right because your question was what?
Can you guess how many feet are in a fathom?
I can guess. Done. I win.
Yeah, I can guess.
Yeah, I can guess how many feet are in a fathom. Yep,
yes.
I win.
I wrote
done.
yes.
No notes.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it was like 2 yards. 6 feet are in a fathom?
Good God.
Isn't it funny how like it makes me think of the SNL sketch recently with that Nate Bargatze or whatever. Like
Bargatze.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's a fathom, 2 yards, 6 feet. Guys, what are we doing here?
I don't even know.
So stupid. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, 6 feet in a fathom.
All right. I went like way deep. You're like, how many feet are in a fathom?
Yeah. Samsonite. Was way off. Sorry.
Okay, so thanks to his role as, I guess, Vision in the MCU, Paul Bettany's films have brought in over $13 billion at the worldwide box office. His top 6 movies are all MCU projects, but would you like to guess what 2006 film is number 7 on Paul Bettany's highest grossing films list?
Da Vinci Code.
That is correct.
Yeah, I remember it was a huge
$700 million it made, but yeah,
I mean it was
worldwide. I mean,
the
book's way better than the movie, but yeah.
Oh, he's made a lot of money. That's good.
13 billion, yeah. I mean, I was like, hello. He's like number 18 overall, but thanks to Marvel. Like,
true. That's true.
Because the next one after that is Iron Man 2, so like 6 of his top 7 are all.
Speaking of Paul Bettany,
yeah, what do you got?
He plays Dr. Stephen Mattern or whatever.
Yeah, we don't even know. Yeah, just Dr. Stephen because you don't even hear his surname
in this movie. And James Darcy, who plays First Lieutenant Tom Pullings, they're actually connected in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, having ultimately played or gave voice to what character?
Jarvis.
Yes. Originally Howard Stark's butler, played by James Darcy, and then the AI program Tony relies on. Nice.
Full disclosure, I knew this, but my next question was basically that. I'm not even going to read through my wording, but it was essentially
it's good.
Yeah.
Crossing streams. Love it. All right.
What does HMS stand for?
Her Majesty's...
Yeah, you're 2/3 of the way there.
Service?
Ship.
Ship. That's not right. Cervix?
Samsonite. Cervix starts with a C.
Yeah, that's Listen, that's
Oh,
certainly...
wait, you said service? I'm sorry.
Yes.
That's weird.
I actually said service, and then I decided to get gross.
Yeah.
Yes, that's funny.
Her Majesty's
ship.
cervix.
I like that.
The HMC.
I guess it could be like,
Surprise.
His Majesty. Yeah, now. But
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Well
HMC.
done.
There you go.
Very good.
Well, I wasn't going to ask that one, but you asked the Bettany ones. I was like, or the Jarvis
Yes,
ones.
that's
All right,
good.
here we go. All right. We got another one?
Billy Boyd
Yes.
rose to prominence in the Lord of the Rings movies that we watched, and now with Master and Commander coming out a month before the final one, which we're going to cover this year. Can you honestly think you've seen him in anything else since 2003?
Well, I did watch the Chucky series or whatever it was.
Oh, you actually did?
So yeah,
I looked at. I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't imagine you have, because
yeah, I was on whatever that was, Sci-Fi or whatever it was. I did
Man.
check out a episode or two of that. Or yeah, so I did
of
see him. on
all
that,
the
but no.
actors from
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, I remember.
But
like,
otherwise, no. I get your point.
yeah,
Yep.
can't imagine you have, because truly, it's funny how you think of all the actors in the Lord of the Rings, and then this comes out, and you're like, all right, like they're connected to something, and it has been a wasteland.
He's a voice in Battle of the Five Armies in The Hobbit.
True.
Uncredited.
Yeah, uncredited. Yeah, but I was like looking. I'm like, dude, you've done nothing.
I mean, he's done a lot of roles. He's a paid actor, but nothing that we have.
He's been a great working
Right.
actor.
Yep.
But you think about truly, pretty much everybody else from the Fellowship.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes.
Yeah.
So,
you can't. He would be the one of all 9 of those Fellowship that would
yeah, like,
have nothing.
oh, hey, Billy.
Yeah. Even John Rhys Davies was just in
Indy 5.
Indy 5.
Yep.
Well, Billy, although he does like when he boards that ship and just like slices that dude open, you're
Yeah.
like, you badass mother effer,
got
man.
it. It's so
Oh,
good.
he's so good. So that'll bring us to the end of the episode. Stay tuned for our upcoming happy hour on In America and for upcoming Christmas episodes on Elf and Love Actually. Be sure to find all of our previous episodes on your favorite streaming platform. The metaverse of Facebook, Instagram, and Threads is where we call our home, as well as 20years4beers.com. We want to say thank you for taking the time to listen and for clicking that like or subscribe button on your devices. If you are so inclined, please click the support link in our bio or on our website and consider supporting us in other ways. This has been 20 Years 4 Beers. My name is Steve.
I'm Tim.
And thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Yeah, at the risk of sounding old, right?
Right?
They just don't make them like they used to.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Here's a podcast talking about how it used to be.
Cervix starts with a C.
Oh, hey, Billy. Super deep.
There's very little of it until you get to the climax.